I want you to notice that these colors here are completely different from these colors over here, which are also completely different from these colors here, even though these are all the same plug. And it's important because this has been Mercury's system for the past 20 years. But before we get into these colors and what they do, we need to talk about this system here, which is the old analog system. And this is the 8-pin connector right here. Now everybody can find these lists all over the internet. They're pretty much everywhere. So we're going to go over this list real quick. The black wire is going to be the ground, and then our light blue with a white stripe is going to be the trim up switch. Our light green with a white stripe is going to be the trim down switch. And then our brown with a white stripe is going to be the trim sender to the gauge. Sometimes you'll see a purple with a white stripe, that is the trim trailer switch. And then the gray wire is going to be the tachometer signal. Black yellow stripe is going to be the shorting or the stop circuit. The pink is going to be the fuel sender to gauge. Our red is going to be an unfused wire from the battery giving us 12 volts. Our red with a purple stripe is going to be a protected fused wire, and then the purple is going to be our key on ignition switch that gives 12 volts to everything that needs 12 volts when the key is in the on position. Our tan wire is the temperature switch to the warning horn and or the temperature sender to the temperature gauge. A tan with a blue stripe is an alternate color temperature switch to go to the warning horn. A yellow is usually for the starter solenoid to the starter motor and or the starter to the regulator charging circuit. A yellow with a red stripe is going to be the start switch to the start solenoid to the neutral start switch. And then the yellow with a black stripe is going to be the choke or the enricher system. Now you'll notice that this is more of an analog system, so this wire here is going to have a lot of those same analog colors. You'll notice that there is still a tan for the temperature, gray for the tach, as well as a yellow with a red stripe for our start system. They will also have the black with the yellow stripe giving us our stop switch. Purple is still going to be key on power, black is still going to be our ground, and then red is still going to be our constant 12 volt power. Our yellow with the black stripe is still going to be the choke system, and then our blue and green with the white stripe are still going to be our trim systems. And then the brand new system over the past probably 15 years has moved to this right here where all those wires are gone. That is because you'll notice they are replaced with these right here, these, and these. So these are 3 different CAN networks, and that is how pretty much everything is going to be talking with each other. And it's very important that you understand that they've replaced these. So right here you have that blue and green with the white stripes, whereas here we don't have those colors. We don't have the tan for the overheat, and we don't have the choke because it does not need that. But it has replaced all those colors with the blue, white, green, and orange with stripes, as well as a brown and yellow wire. So if you're looking at harnesses and you notice that it has these gray, the brown, the black or the yellow with the black stripe, and then the 2 trim, that is going to be an analog system. It is most likely not going to be a digital system. Whereas if you see the blue, the white, the green, the orange, and the yellow and the brown, that is a fully digital system, and this is for the vast majority of Mercuries today. The other ones are going to have something similar to this, or it is going to be a fully analog system, even though they all have the same plugs. But you'll notice the addition now and the change here is that here we have a red that is solid with a purple. Here we've got a red with a black stripe and a purple with a white stripe. Same thing over here. This one now has a purple, a red with a purple stripe, and a black or a red with a black stripe, which makes these completely different. What you're going to want to understand when it comes to this, now that you understand that this is all mechanical and analog and you won't be needing that unless you need that, and this is basically a digital system that doesn't have those other colors on it. But you'll notice that with that change and having a red wire with the black stripe, you will see that this wire comes up to here and it ties into here, that then also goes over to here with this plug right here. And that is because this is the clean power. This gets a 5 amp fuse, and this goes straight to the battery. It is always going to have power on this wire, and that is what gives power to all the computers in the system. Clean power. Without clean power, you can do nothing with any of their stuff. So you'll notice that in the middle you have changed over to this red wire with the black stripe. That is the clean power wire, and that is going to need to have 12 volts on it all the time coming from this wire. So when you turn your key switch to the on position, it tells the computers to wake up, and they all have power coming from there. Now when it comes to understanding this, it's pretty simple because we have, like you know, these CAN networks. But before going into those, I just want to give you the rundown on this. Most of it's all the same. Our gray is still going to be the tax signal. Our black with the yellow stripe is still going to be our kill switch. Our purple, whether it's got a white stripe or not, is still going to be the key on power. The black in the middle is going to be our clean power ground. The red with the black stripe is going to be our clean power 12 volts. This red with a purple stripe is just going to be a 15 amp fused 12 volt power, and then the black is a chassis ground, which is, you know, just our ground. Which, now that you've seen those, if you notice these three right here, they are all wound together. So they are separate CAN networks that get their power from the middle clean powers, but they're important because the colors on them tell what they are. Back in the day, this was CAN 1, CAN 2, CAN 3. So now they do not call it with numbers anymore. They call this one CAN P, CAN X, and CAN H. CAN 1 or CAN P is always white and blue, and then CAN X or CAN 2 is always yellow and brown, and then CAN H or CAN 3 is always orange with a green stripe and green with an orange stripe. And that's important to know because this right here is basically only used for joystick applications, and like, you know, some of the new next gen DTS stuff, that is going to be used for that stuff. These two right here are the most important of all of the systems. CAN 1, and I'm not going to go completely into the CAN network and how the CAN network works. We have an entire video on that you can go check out. I will be linked in this video, but this one is the entire boat. So CAN 1 or CAN P is for CAN propulsion, and that does the entire boat. So the entire boat CAN network is on here, so all the information flows on this CAN network, and all of the engine data, meaning the shifting and the throttle, runs on this one, CAN X. If there's a problem with this, it will use this to control the shifting and the throttle. So that is the colors for this that you need to know about. And when it comes to any other color, they're not going to be that important. Like this right here, you'll notice there are so many different colors, and you really are not going to know what these colors mean. Knowing the colors is not near as important as it is to be able to read the diagram, but I'm going to show you some of the most important ones that you do need to know about. One thing that is good about Mercury is they label everything. So right here, this is your vessel display. So you know this goes to your vessel display. This right here is the accessory relay. So you know that goes to your accessory relay. This one right here, same thing. This is an accessory relay. So that's going to power your accessory relay. They've pretty much all got them all labeled the way you want them to be labeled. This is for our start-stop switch. And if you look, start-stop, but a lot of tags have fallen off of this one. Start-stop, that's for your lanyard. So those are all labeled. Let me see if they've got one, because this one goes to the junction box. So that's going to go to your junction box. This goes to the trackpad. So that's going to control your trackpad. Right here, you've got your trim. So this is going to control your trim system and plug to your trim. What else we got here? Here is going to be our starboard 2, our center starboard 2 resistor pack. And then also we've got our port 2 engine adapter. warning buzzers, warning buzzers. So as you can see, pretty much everything is labeled the way it needs to be labeled, so you don't really need to know the wire colors. You just need to follow the labels. But when it comes to specific wire colors, on this is a dash harness, but let me go get an engine harness, that way you can see that. On our engine harness, there are only a few colors that you're really going to need to know, because all these colors are constantly changing depending on the model, so they are not really as consistent with what the colors do. But obviously when you look at this harness, there are so many wires that you kind of won't have any consistency. But black is still going to be ground, red is still going to be power, but you're also going to see reds with a white stripe or reds with a yellow stripe. Now these are going to be fused 12-volt power that's going to feed things like our injectors and our ignition coils, stuff like that. But then you will also see this right here. It's going to be purple with a yellow stripe and black with an orange stripe. These are going to be your 5-volt reference for the sensors, as well as the sensor ground. So all of our sensors, depending on what it is, like let's say the sensor here, like any of these sensors that are up here, you've got a black with an orange, you've got a purple with a black, and you've got a white with an orange. And that is going to be our 5-volt reference, our ground, as well as the sensor itself going to the PCM. And that's going to hold true for pretty much all of the sensors that are on the engine. They're all going to get the black with an orange, and they're going to get the 5-volt, which is purple with a yellow stripe, or it's going to be purple with a black stripe, depending on what the sensor is and what it's doing. But if you notice, they've all got it. Here's your purple, here's your black, but they're all going to have those colors. There is your purple with the yellow, and then there is the black with the orange. This is going to go to throttle body, but they all have those colors, and those are the most important colors that you need to know about.